Hey everyone, Howie Fisher from Fisher's Flies. Thanks for checking in as always. Today I'm going to be tying up a little known pattern called the clown shoe caddis. This is actually a pattern that was introduced to me by a friend who asked me to tie some for him, and it's become a pattern that I fish relatively often. To start off, I'm using one of Ahrex new hooks, the Freshwater 527, which is a big gap dry fly hook. For thread, I'm using UTC 70 denier in tan. And I'm going to get started with this right behind the eye. Take a couple wraps until my thread is secure and snip them off. Use my trusty renowned scissors. Once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and create a thread base all the way down the bend of the hook to where I want the body to end. And by doing this, you will make the next step a little bit easier on yourself. So for the body, I'm using vinyl rib or D-rib in Midge. This specific version, I'm using tan. I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece off, and I'm going to tie this in with the rounded side, or the D side, facing the hook. And this is important as it will allow the material to roll the way you want it to when you go to tie it in. So I'm going to bring my hook, or my thread, back to right behind the eye, and I'm going to start bringing my D-rib forward. Again, tying it in with the rounded edge facing the hook will allow me to just pick it up and start palmering this forward with the flat side on the hook, which is the side you want. It's a little bit backwards and seems counterintuitive, but it works, I promise. I'm going to go ahead and secure my material and snip it off. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my thread back to about the hook point. My next material is going to be elk body. Here I'm using Select Cow Elk from Nature's Spirit in the natural color. I'm going to go ahead and snip off about a half a pencil worth or a pencil worth. And I'm going to go ahead and preen out the longs, the shorts, the fuzzy fibers, and make sure this is nice and clean. The cleaner that you can get it, the more fuzzies you can get out, the nicer this hair is going to stack. You've probably heard me and others say that before, and it's very true. Once I've got it where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and stack it. Once I have those tips fairly aligned, I'm going to go ahead and take my hair out, switch hands, and you can see there what I've ended with. I personally like to make this wing slightly longer than the length of the hook, so you're going to see that wing tip is going to be slightly longer than the back edge of the hook. I'm going to go ahead and secure it with a couple wraps and then work my way forward, snipping off the butts. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple more wraps just to make sure I begin to start covering those wraps. At this point, you want to start working your wing backwards just to make sure it's not wrapping around the hook. For hackle here, I'm using Yardbird hackle in medium barred ginger. Brown or grizzly or brown variant will work, or regular brown, whatever you have. Here I'm using a nice ginger barred color. I'm going to go ahead and strip off the bottom fibers to give myself a place to tie in. And then I'm going to go ahead and snip a couple or pull a couple extras off of the side I'm going to be wrapping around the hook. Again, this just helps it lay down a little bit easier. Once I have this tied in, I'm going to tie in my last material, which is what makes this fly unique. This is McFlyFoam, and it comes in a package called the Clown Package. That's why the name of the fly is called the Clown Shoe Caddis. And this is actually foam. It is stretchy, kind of porous foam that floats. I'm going to go ahead and take about an inch and a half material, whatever is easiest for you to work with. And I'm going to go ahead and secure it like a parachute post on a Parachute Adams or similar fly. I'm going to go ahead and take some wraps around the base like a parachute, but I'm not going to work that all the way up the fly. You don't need to do that. Once I've got that where I want it, I'm just going to go ahead and take a couple hackle wraps around this material. I like to aim for 3 behind the foam just to, again, add floatability, but also kind of hide that pink hot spot a little bit more from the fish. And then I like to give 3 or 4 in front of whatever I have room for. Once I get to the eye, I'm going to go ahead and take 2 wraps over top of the hackle to secure it. And then I'm going to take 1 or 2 in front of the hackle to make sure that's not going anywhere. I'm going to take my half hitch tool and go ahead and give it a half hitch or 2 before snipping off that hackle fiber. I personally like to do this to ensure that that hackle fiber doesn't slip out in case your thread gets a little bit loose when whip finishing or half hitching. I like to go ahead and give it another half hitch or 2 over top of the hackle stem. That's just added security in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and snip it off, pull straight up on the McFlyFoam and give it a snip. You can see here that gives it a nice little hot spot, but again, this foam also adds and helps the fly to float very well. This fly can be fished with a dropper underneath up to a certain extent. Again, this is the clown shoe caddis. I hope you enjoy. Tie them up, fish them, let me know what you think. If you prefer to, you can cut a little V shape out of the bottom here, and that will help it sit a little bit flatter on the water. Again, thanks for watching.